Hey Kingdom, I played over 2000 hours in POE 2, but I got zero experience in POE 1. That's why I downloaded today to see how fun it is. Since at least half of you playing different ARPGs in rotation, and why not to at least give this game a try. I set the goal to get in-game achievement that around 80% of players does not have, and then make my honest thoughts on POE 1. By the way, if you're interested in Diablo 4 review in the same style, just drop a comment, because I got this one in my Steam library also. Anyway, game starts with character selection, and we got 6 characters to select from. There is Ranger and Witch from POE 2, and 4 new ones for me. I could start as completely new character, but I decided to start as a Ranger. And after pressing start, I instantly got a deja vu. Yeah, we start on a beach with weapon provided for our class. In my case it's bow, and it for some reason got 2 sockets already. After speaking with Dying Exile nearby, he got attacked by a zombie and I need to defeat him. Groundhog Day again. I wonder how POE 1 players felt in POE 2, when beginning is basically the same. But anyway, we got drop from this zombie. It's skill. I was going to equip it and start rolling, but turns out mechanics of skills is completely different in this game. There is no skill menu or skill sockets. Do you remember those 2 sockets from the bow I just got? Well, this is actually a skill sockets. Yeah, you equip skills in your weapons or even in your armor pieces in POE 1. And while this system may look good when it was released like 15 years ago, it's complete mess right now. Let me explain. These sockets can be of different colors. I got 2 green ones, for example, but also there is a connector. Green sockets will give me ability to use green skills or green support gems, but if there is no connection between them, well, they won't work together. This means if I find another bow which is more powerful and it got different color of sockets, or there is no connections between them, well, this bow is kinda wasted. Same goes for other gear pieces. And yeah, after learning how to use these billions of currency, you can easily kinda craft your weapons and change colors and also connections between sockets. But if we honestly ask ourselves what the system does to us gameplay wise, well, it does nothing. It only gives us unnecessary friction and blocks 90% of equipment right from the start. It blocks ability to experiment with builds. So technically, if you want to try different combination of support gems with your skill, well, you need to find the exact same piece of equipment with exact same affixes and prefixes to make your build work, and also with different color of your skill and support gem sockets. So I dislike this system, but what about visuals? Well, visually it looks fine. Of course, lightning models or other stuff can be like better, but it definitely looks good. But there is a big but. It doesn't feel good. Do you know why Druid hasn't been released in latest POE 2 patch? Well, because Jonathan Rogers decided to not release him. He wanted to make insanely good animations for Druid, and that's what dictates how game feels. Basic movement of character, how character attacks, how monsters react to these attacks, like how the hits land actually, is what gives you a good feeling about the game. And this game, well, it was released 15 years ago, and of course animations is kinda outdated, and please don't get me wrong, there's tons of games that is releasing even today and they got a lot worse animations and a lot worse feeling when you hit enemies. But in this review I'm comparing POE1 to POE2, and in POE 2 they just nailed it. You just feel whenever monsters shatter when they frozen or when they burn to ashes after they ignited, and stuff like that. Even basic hits just feels good. And it makes world of difference when we fight bosses. Yeah, when we fight basic monsters, it doesn't matter too much, we just destroy them in few hits anyway. But versus bosses, well, it just feels completely different when you actually roll out of attacks, when you sprint in boss fights and stuff like that. Anyway, after destroying first boss, I got my first level, and we can check out this passive skill tree. In this game, we can't pick what attribute we get, so attribute nodes will provide you with set attributes. Since equipment in this game also got same attribute requirements as in POE 2, this locks us from different playstyles early on. For example, it's hard to get any strength nodes as a ranger early on, and even if I want to play with some big mace, well, I can't. Also, logic of passives is completely different. As you can see right from the get-go, I can pick attack speed, projectile damage, attack damage nodes, skills and they all over here from the start. Unlike Pass of Excel 2, where you go right, you get defense, you go left, you get damage. This actually gives us loads of variations in our starting road. And after reading through a bunch of notes, I realized, well, this passive skill tree is actually a lot more flexible and a lot more interesting. That's why we hear a lot from Pass of Excel 1 veteran players that passive skill tree need a rework in Pass of Excel 2. After defeating first boss, I decided to check out what equipment we have. Well, there's new bow with different sockets. As I told you, right now with this bow I won't be able to use my support skill gem. But even if it was usable, well, there is a problem, as you can see. Every time you will find new equipment, you need to swap your support and skill gems. And that's why I'm so glad they removed this system in Pass of Excel 2. It's actually adds only useless friction without any fun factor. At the same time, if I'm equipping my main damage dealing skills in my weapon, after swapping I can't find out what damage will be with new bow. While in Pass of Excel 2 I can instantly swap two weapons and check which gives me better DPS. That's why a lot of guys actually calling this game a spreadsheet game. If you got everything pre-planned, well, you will have nice time, but if you're going blind like me, it's friction on every corner. Anyway, I arrived to the first town and that's the map of campaign. It's small, at least in my interface, but I like visual clarity a lot more than in Pass of Excel 2. At least in terms how zones are connected and where we can go next, especially compared to Act 2. After arriving into the town, one of the traders gave me ability to pick one more skill. And if you got no idea about skill tags, you will see only a bunch of shiny rocks which looks exactly the same. Another poor design choice in my opinion. It's a lot better to have something like this instead of colorful orbs. Anyway, I decided to stop on caustic arrow, which is basically a poison arrow. Since my main skill gives burning, this will give me poison and bosses will melt from damage over time. Well, that's basically the plan. The problem, I don't have green sockets right now for this skill. So I went into trader and started to sell everything I get. And well, you sell not for gold, but for different resources, or how we call it in game, currency. There's a lot more currency in Pass of Excel 1, at least right now, but if we investigate a little bit further, there's a lot of shard currency. Shard currency is basically shards that need to be collected and then they will be combined into actual currency. So let's go into next area and I'll explain my opinion why it's super bad. Well, first of all, it makes half of the currency completely useless when we reach end game, because in end game the drop rates is a lot higher and we will get a lot more currency, so all the shards will become useless. While there are still some shards for lower tier currency in Pass of Excel 2, actually they made a pretty good job by adding tier 2 and tier 3 augmentation orbs, exaltation orbs and other orbs. And all of these currencies at any point of the game will somehow at least improve your equipment, while half of the currencies in Pass of Excel 1 will be used mostly for rolling different colors of skill and support gem sockets on your weapons and armors, so you're able to equip your build. After running away from the corrupt rave, I found one more new item. Well, kinda new, it's Portal Scroll. Thanks God they removed it, because it just sits in your inventory and it should sit there anyway, because you just want to have Portal Scrolls to get away from the zone and sell your equipment or your loot later. Another new mechanic I found in this zone is gem level up. Yeah, my gems, support gems and skill gems leveling up with me. I fight monsters and getting more powerful bonuses on these gems. And it's pretty interesting system, I would say at least. First of all, it's actually pretty cool that when you fight you're becoming stronger and stronger. In Pass of Excel 2 you can increase power of your skill gems and support gems by getting loot drops from enemies. You just need to find higher level of these gems. Which system is better? Well, for me it's Pass of Excel 2. In Pass of Excel 1, if you're not lucky and you're not having any high level gem drops, well, you just equip low level one and then level it up manually by just going and killing monsters. But if you're getting high tier skill gem drops in Pass of Excel 2, you're getting this dopamine hit, because it's pretty rare and you know that this level of skills actually gives you insane amount of power for your abilities. In POE1, on other hand, you know that you will anyway unlock and upgrade your skill and support gems. So technically you just don't care about the system at all. When I was roaming around, I found new NPC, and this NPC gave me quest item and then I need to equip it, and it gives me powers inside of Breach Zone. Yeah, we got Breach right in the campaign. Honestly, I guess they will add bridge zones into campaign in POE 2 anyway. We should get these endgame mechanics in campaign, so we'll learn how to use them early on. Overall, I enjoyed how these mechanics got introduced in the campaign. Basically, I run around, I get into new zone, I learn new mechanic, and now I know how to use it. But there will be a little bit of problem with it, at least with me. More on that later. For now, I decided to just complete bunch of quests and see what's going on. After killing one of the quest monsters, I will get my reward. It's medicine chest. It's actually a quest item that I need to bring back to town. So I used my portal scroll and got my quest reward. I need to choose from one of the 3 different flasks. One of them gives me movement speed. Also, I can choose one of the 4 support gems. I decided to pick Mirage Archer. I think this extra archer with extra damage will benefit me. And yeah, there's 5 flask slots in the game. And it's pretty weird. First of all, you can have different flasks that gives you movement speed, protection, mana regeneration, health regeneration and stuff like that. But honestly, pressing 5 buttons just to buff your character is not very fun. So I'm glad they changed focus from buffing your character into a variety of skills that got different purposes in combat. Anyway, I decided to see what can I buy in the shops. For my surprise, I can use not only gold to buy something. Actually, I haven't found anything that I can buy with gold. Only a bunch of stuff that I can buy with Scrolls of Wisdom. And I bought a bunch of really good upgrades for my character. Teleported back and checked almost every corner of this location. Then I backtracked to previous location and went forward into areas that reminds me of hunting grounds. Yeah, it looks almost like that, but 15 years ago. And while seeing some familiar areas is really cool, I still remember that I backtracked here for a good minute or 2. Luckily, I got distracted by a bridge zone in the middle of this area. So I touched purple hand and bridge monsters start to ambush me. And they overwhelmed me insanely fast. I actually like this interface, it shows exactly when bridge will start closing. But amount of monsters was just too much for me, at least at this point of the game. Anyway, loot starts to rain, and I understood I need to get loot filter. Luckily for me, there's POE1 version of filter that I use in POE2, so I quickly made basic loot filter and went into the game. Now when there's no crap on the ground, it looks a lot better, and what I instantly realized, since my screen is not bloated with bunch of useless loot, that I see transfers to new locations a lot earlier. I hope we will get same distance of unlocking these transfers on the minimap in POE 2, because there's loads of time when I just miss the exact path to the next area. But here in POE 1, distance when door is actually shown on the map is just way better. So let's move to the next zone. And realize when we find activity, it's almost impossible to understand what's going on. Yeah, we are in bridge zone right now. There's monster waves which ambushing me. At the same time, it's pretty dark. It's hard to see anything and it's hard to understand actually what skills I'm doing, what skills enemies doing, what skills allies doing, if something actually affects my character or not. And while it's fine in the cave, actually I found myself in these situations a lot. In most parts of the campaign it's just too dark, at least for me. And it's not so fun when it's just dark places, when you can't see anything. Just look at this area is just a lot better. I wish there was a lot more areas like this in the game. And is this mod from POE 2? Probably yes. Actually I played for about an hour at this point and already want to jump and feel this ice strike when monsters shatters from Ice Monk in POE 2. Anyway, I need to check out the map where to go since I need to get my achievement and give final review. As I told, I really enjoy this map, but here's the problem. I don't know which quests are mandatory. On POE2 map we see instantly plus sign on important activities and how much activities are actually left in area. Here we don't know this, so I actually explored every corner of most maps and actually I haven't found a lot of stuff. Actually, probably I haven't found nothing in corners of the maps. And while it may not sound really important, like why do you need something in corners, it actually gives a lot more interest in exploring maps in POE 2, when you know that if you go into corner, you maybe find some chest and in this chest there will be upgrade material, maybe there will be little boss where you will get extra sockets for your skills or even exalted orbs. This gives meaning to exploration, and in POE 1 I'm missing this exploration fun. If there is any experience POE 1 fun still watching, well, you're probably already mad, since I'm basically talking how every system is bad, or almost every system. And here's the truth. Yes, they really are. They really are, and it doesn't mean the game is bad. We don't need to forget, this game is 15 years old, almost. And if I compare Path of Exile 1 experience right now to any other ARPG like Diablo 3, since I haven't played Diablo 4 yet, Last Epoch or other games I played, it's totally S-tier game. There's a lot more depth, a lot more interesting features and a lot more interesting mechanics. But we're comparing this game to Path of Exile 2 right now, and in my opinion, every mechanic that we got in Path of Exile 1 just got better in Path of Exile 2, and it's getting better with every update. I just see how they removed everything that I hate right now in the game, and some systems are a bit dumped down in Path of Exile 2. So now they actually can add a lot more to them and make them better. But let's get back to Path of Exile 1, where I'm finishing quests and I need to destroy every single monster on this location. After destroying all monsters, this location is cleared and it became beautiful. It's insanely good animation actually, and I want to see more of this in Path of Exile 2 and maybe later in Path of Exile 1. And for completing this quest I got reward Book of Regrets. It gave me 2 refund points. I thought it's like passive 3 points like in Path of Exile 2, that gives me basically passive 3 points that I can invest, and then I can choose if they invested normally or in different gear sets. But turns out it's just free refunds. Turns out this quest is completely optional and it took quite a bit of time. That's again what I don't like. There's no clear indication what quests are really important and what quests are just optional. After going through the game a little bit more, I unlocked Dash. It's basically blink ability. Basically I press the button and teleport into small distance. Also unlocked new skill, it's Ballista, and I can put multiple ballistas at the same time. Guess what? Flask that gives me movement speed, ability to blink for a short distance, and dropping totems that destroy monsters without my inputs as early as level 9 already made gameplay look a little bit zoomy. Zoomy means fast. Basically I go forward, I land totems, I shoot few arrows and then blink, and also I always pressing on my speed potion. Speed potion getting charges after killing monsters, and basically I'm moving forward at pretty insane speed. So if you're curious why Path of Exile 1 players telling you that Path of Exile 2 is too slow, well, that's why. Even before reaching first real boss, I already moving faster than most characters who reach maps in Path of Exile 2. Of course it backfired pretty quickly, I got trapped in ice and killed for the first time. But soon I reached first real boss. That's the boss, and he is like mini boss of first act. At this point I already kinda formed my opinion on the game, but still we need to find pretty rare achievement to get a real and based opinion. Funnily enough, only 50% of players actually defeated this boss, so it's already pretty rare. In my opinion, all the things I talked before actually contribute to this, but there's one real big reason why people actually stop playing. It's hard to get hooked into the game when killing monsters just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel fun because there's no impacts of your hit, spells and stuff like that. It's even harder to change build, so if you picked something weird, well, you're just stuck with weird stuff. I tried to read through help panel, but it doesn't help either. But at least I found that there is different recipes in traders, so if I sell different kinds of equipment, I can have different kinds of outcome. It's pretty weird system, honestly. So what is the biggest problem in my opinion? It's actually lack of clear objective of progression. Well, it sounds pretty weird from me, but that's what I mean. For example, in Path of Exile 2, when we start, we know that there is skill gems level 5, and you know when you advance through the game, you will unlock them, and you instantly know that at level 5 you will unlock new skills, and you instantly can try them. So even if you met at your initial peaks, maybe you're interested in trying out skills at skill level 5. When I started Warrior in Path of Exile 2, I got bored around start of Act 2, but I knew that there is Hammer of the Gods skill waiting for me in the future, and that's what kept me going, and actually it was pretty fun after reaching Act 4 and getting better gear. That's what I'm lacking right now in Path of Exile 1, I just don't know what will be in the future and will it become more fun than it is right now. And it doesn't mean it's not fun for me right now, I actually pretty thrilled because I reached Mirror Wheel the Twisted, it's Siren, it's first boss of Act 1, and this fight was pretty good. Still, I think my build is at least okayish, and I got almost no problems defeating this boss. Turns out 5% of the players actually drops between Brutus and Mirwell. At least based on this Steam achievement, yeah, only 45% of players actually defeated this boss. And after reaching Act 2, I already feel that my tempo is almost like mapping in Pass of Exile 2, at least early game mapping. At the same time, we need to make decisions here. I can help this lady and get plus 15% to all elemental resistances. I know that this is a good bonus. Guy in another location gives plus 40 to maximum life, so I decided to actually side with the lady and defeat this guy for 15% elemental resistances. And I don't like this system and these decisions early on. I don't know if we can reverse it and change it later, but what if we actually need this plus 40 life? Kinda the same stuff that I don't like in Act 3 in Pass of Exile 2 and in some areas in Act 4. While these choices probably won't break your character, it can make this character a lot worse, and we already spent some time reaching these areas, so I hope they will stay away from these design choices later on. Anyway, after going through a few areas in Act 2, I found familiar mechanics. It's Ritual, and it works exactly the same as in the maps. I enjoyed it, because in Pass of Exile 1 you can play Ritual, in campaign there's one area, free turn, but honestly it works completely different as in the maps, because here we fight one ritual, we get points, and after fighting ritual you get options to get some bonuses, to buy some stuff. There's a bunch of ritual areas spawned in this area, we can clear all of them, and we can even defer items for later purchases. Well, it's cool, as you can see, at the same time on the map there's Breach. For players who know what they're doing, it's just waste of time, because these mechanics don't provide any good benefits for your character in most cases, so it's probably better to continue on your main quest. While at the same time, for new players like me who try to enjoy the campaign, it just bloats the map and there's just hard to know what you need to do on each map, on each area, and it makes harder to enjoy the campaign. Still, I enjoyed some new ritual mechanics. Yeah, there's new ritual mechanics for me, because there's no mechanics like this in Pass of Exile 2, and it makes playing ritual a lot funnier. We need to think like how to move our character, but again it's a little bit hard to focus on what's my actual goal right now, so I hope they won't bloat campaign in Pass of Exile 2 with mechanics like this. But here's what I found in Act 2. It's hideout and crafting bench. In crafting bench there's recipes, and they gives us ability to choose certain suffixes, prefixes and other bonuses. It's pretty cool mechanic. I like that we have ability to choose certain bonuses. It costs some currency, but hey, we get what we want, and we can pick only one bonus this way. So it's kinda crafting finisher actually. But with this mechanic I can guarantee, for example, movement speed on boots when I'm playing campaign and make campaign faster. It's actually like a good crafting option in my opinion, but it's pretty strict in the late game, since we can use it only once. The only way we use it when we end crafting. It's just too narrow. Most of areas is pretty big, but at the same time, as I told you, there's nothing interesting in most parts of this area, so there's just lots of backtracking. So it took just a little bit more time than I wanted to reach boss of this act. It's the final boss. Fight was pretty okay, there's lots of mechanics going on, and since there's no movement kind of mechanics like rolling and other dodging abilities, I guess they just added loads of basic trash mobs to every boss, at least every boss that I faced. As you can see, there's loads of mini monsters, and what's the problem? Well, it just blows the screen and it's hard to focus on boss, what he's actually doing, and this dilutes my fun. I like to see what's boss actually doing, the exact mechanics. Anyway, with these animations and mechanics, it's just useless, so it's fine. After reaching Act 3, I found the statue, and this statue will give me Ascendancy. I decided that if I get Ascendancy, then I can probably end this game. And unlike Pass of Exile 2, I haven't found a really big trial for Ascendancy yet. But this statue tells me where I need to go and where I need to find little Ascendancy trials. It's just little rooms with bunch of traps, and I need to go into the last part of this room and touch big tables. This gives me teleport, and it's kinda done, it's finished. and I need to find a bunch of these zones to actually get ascendancy. I enjoyed this act a lot more because there's a lot more bright areas and it just looks better. And also I finally learned how auras work in the game instead of spirit in Path of Exile 2. It locks your total mana, and again Spirit is a lot better solution in my opinion, since locking mana prevents you from using loads of abilities. And what is fun? Fun is to use abilities and destroy monsters with a bunch of different stuff, so locking mana is not fun. At least for me. What is fun is this pretty weird mechanic. It looks like tower defense stuff. We just place some towers, we need to upgrade them, there's a bunch of monster waves coming, there's pump which we need to protect, I guess, but again it's hard to understand how this mechanic works, since at the same time in this location there's breach which is semi-active, there's a bunch of other activities, there's campaign quests going on, all of them in the same area, and this makes a complete mess from the map instead of just understanding what we need to do. After checking Google how to actually play this activity and what I need to do, it became clear what we need to do, and it was like somewhat fun. But again, what I want to have in the game as beginner, as a new player, I want everything to be clear and understandable. I want this mechanic in separate area and some NPCs that will tell me exactly how this works, what will happen, and then I will enjoy like this mini tower defense game. Right now in Path of Exile 2 they're getting almost same approach. You're reaching hunting grounds, you see this hunter and he explain go and hunt the spirit, but honestly I want even more explanation in Path of Exile 2 because it's just hard to know, especially for new players, what will happen and how it affects a game. I would say GGG need to take few lessons from Kingdom Come Deliverance developers. All we need to have is just pause screen with exact instructions on how mechanic works, and if you don't want, you can just turn it off in options. Anyway, I got my big dopamine hit, my first legendary. It wasn't a really insanely cool coral ring, but it was pretty cool to get first legendary, I mean unique item. After checking some information on the game, I found that there's a lot more interesting uniques in Path of Exile 1 and a lot more usable uniques in Path of Exile 1. So I guess we just need to wait until we get to this point in Path of Exile 2, since uniques is just a lot better, a lot more usable and a lot more interesting in the first game. And after this dopamine hit, I went into the last boss of this act, at least I guess so, and 70% of players are already dropping the game. While I am unlocking secret door and getting into my ascension trial, I found all little secret rooms and unlocked the labyrinth. And it's actually a labyrinth with lots of traps, with lots of monsters, and it's labyrinth. It's hard to find exit instantly. Probably if you know what you're doing, you can instantly get to other parts of these areas, but for me it took just a little bit of extra time to find exit. It was exit to location with a boss. After dropping boss to around like 70% of health, he actually decided to become invulnerable and disappeared. He ran away. Guess what? I thought I will get my ascendancy, but I just opened another door to another part of this labyrinth. Yeah, we just need to find another boss location. Drop him a little bit more, but at 50% of health he will become invulnerable and run again. And we need to clear a few more rooms of this labyrinth to find another location with the boss. And not like little rooms, actual big areas. At least this was the final time I need to defeat this guy, so I got my ascension. And ability to upgrade one of my support gems to divine support gem, which is pretty cool and interesting system in my opinion. Every class will have 3 ascendancies, so we can pick one of them. So it's the same as in Path of Exile 2. And with this ascendancy I finally reached the boss called Dominus, and that's the last boss of Act 3. It's nice to know that in Path of Exile 1 there's 10 acts, not 6, so it's like 30% of the game right now, and this fight was a lot more intense and interesting than previous. I guess later in the game we will get even more crazy boss fights and probably a lot more interesting ones. This guy is by the way one of the bosses which kinda dies, but then Doom music kicks in and he became a super big monster, a lot more dangerous in the second form, with different areas, so it's pretty cool. And by defeating him I got achievement that is unlocked only by 12% of players, Well, it's kinda cheating a little bit because it's achievement for defeating this boss as certain class. So in reality, most of players play at least till level 80 if they stick after Act 2. But technically my goals are done. I got a rare achievement and I got my ascendancy. So here's my final thoughts and final review. After reaching Act 4, it becomes a lot harder, so we start to die a lot. But when you realize that after upgrading equipment a little bit and getting a better bow, we start to one-shot everyone again and we are unkillable again, we're basically in the loop, where we need to go a little bit further, then we start to struggle, get upgrades, go further again, and so on and so on. In Pass of Exile 1 there's almost no mechanics that feels good, at least that's my opinion, but the game itself is insanely deep and interesting. So if you decide to reach endgame, there will be loads of activities, loads of mechanics, how you can upgrade your gear and upgrade your character, get better damage, reach higher level monsters, defeat higher and stronger bosses, but in the end it's just numbers on the screen, and yeah, there's no numbers in Pass of Exile 1, so it's pretty good spreadsheet visualization on the screen. It can be fun, but for me I will stay away from this game in near future and will focus on Pass of Exile 2, which is insane upgrade on all the systems above Pass of Exile 1. Drop your opinions about these games in the comments below and make sure to watch other cool videos on the screen right now. See you there.